Not much. I gotta be honest. I don't care. I don't mean that in a pejorative way, like it's beneath me. I have no interest in supervillains. I really don't. Supervillains exist to fight superheroes. Without the superhero, I don't care. I really don't. And I don't understand the audience for it either. Why do I care about these people? I mean, granted, I want them to have some depth and shading, but I still want them to get kicked in the head at the end of the story. But to tell me you're going to tell an entire story without Batman in it, I don't care. And the whole body horror, they're going for a horror film kind of appeal to it, and I get that. I care even less because I don't do the scary. I don't. Also, I saw the Incredible Melting Man when I was a kid, and I don't want to go back there.
Magnificent. You've never seen anything till you've seen the sun through the rings of Saturn.
Astronaut Stephen West was returning from outer space. But something terrible had happened.
Remember now, his mind is so completely decomposed.
We've got to find him.
He's gonna need human cells to live on.
Stephen West had turned into the Incredible Melting Man.
And the more he kills, the longer he's going to live.
He seems to be getting stronger as he melts.
The Incredible Melting Man is the first new horror creature. Come prepared.
Also, they're going to release it theatrically. I thought it was going to be, straight to video, so rather straight to HBO Max, but they're going to release it theatrically, and I don't see that being a good idea. I think they overestimate the appeal of these characters thanks to the success of the Penguin. See, people didn't have to get off their couch to watch the Penguin. You want them to get up and go out to see this story set in Batman's universe without Batman. And again, they're going for a horror film appeal. The horror genre is always profitable, but this cost 40 million. That means it's got to make at least 100 million to be profitable. Do you see $100 million in this? $100 million audience in this? Because I don't. And the thing about horror films is that they are traditionally very low budget, especially recently. That's how they make their money. The entire Insidious franchise, the most expensive one cost 16 million. The very first one cost 1.5 million. That's why it's a license to print money. But this, I'm not seeing it. And please, please do not let my lack of interest trigger you about this. Okay, it's not a moral judgment. It's a movie, not your mom. Everybody knows about that bitch. I didn't mean that. That was a joke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But this gives me an opportunity to talk about one of my favorite stories. I've actually been meaning to do this for a while. The Mud Pack story, which is when they teamed up all the Clayfaces to fight Batman. This was during the detective run of Alan Grant and the late great Norm Brayfogle, a very underrated run of Batman in the late 80s, early 90s. Now, the very first Clayface was created in the 40s by Bill Finger. No, we do not give Bob Kane credit for dick in this. He was a B-movie actor named Basil Karlo, a play on Basil Rathbone, Boris Karloff, but it's actually more like Lon Chaney Jr., that he could master any disguise. And when he found out that one of his old movies was being remade and he wasn't going to be a part of it except as a technical consultant, he went crazy and started killing all the actors in it in the ways that they die in the film. He only appeared one more time after that and was completely forgotten. Now, given that took place in the Golden Age, he technically fought the Earth 2 Batman. But when they started to use him in the Bronze Era, they gave him a counterpart on Earth 1 with the exact same backstory. And again, he's been in an asylum since the first time he went crazy, and he hears there's another kind of celebration of the work, and he kills a nurse and gets out and goes to stop it, but the guy there kills him instantly. Just kills him immediately, and then takes over his identity to also commit more murders in the style of the film before Batman catches him. And so this is important. Remember, the first Clayface, no powers, just a really big knife, and he dies. This will not stick. Now, the second Clayface was Matt Hagen. Yes, I know that sounds familiar. And this was the Silver Age Clayface, and this also means technically he was fighting the Earth 2 Batman. And he went looking, and he was like a treasure hunter, and he just like falls into this puddle of chemicals, and it turns him into Clayface. He can change his body into anything. He says, "Hey, let me go steal stuff." Okay, but this only lasts for like 48 hours, and he's got to keep coming back. So Batman beats him at least 2 or 3 times, and then finally Batman and Robin track him back to the island where he's getting these chemicals, and Batman tackles him into the puddle, and they both get the powers, and they're fighting each other as various animals until finally Batman disguises himself as a tree and punches him out. I am not kidding. The Silver Age was wonderful. And then Batman just kind of blows it up so he can't get it. But after this, Matt Hagen comes up with a way to have it made synthetically. But this is where you get the idea. He's got to periodically go back to get the chemical to change. Now, the Matt Hagen you know is from Batman the Animated Series, and they combine his name with the original, who was an actor. That's how you get that. Now, the third Clayface was Bronze Age. He was Preston Payne, great comic book name. He was a scientist who all his life had a pituitary problem, which left him deformed. He couldn't get any help for it, so eventually goes to Matt Hagen. And again, the Earth 2 character has been transferred to Earth 1, complete, intact, everything he did before. Matt Hagen's in jail, and the Preston Payne goes to see him, wants to know how he does it. Of course, Hagen's not telling him, but Payne says, "I'll argue for the parole board if you give me something, give me some of your blood," and he does. And so he injects it, and it works. It changes him. He's able to able to change his face, makes himself handsome, goes out on a date, but then something happens. He feels on fire, and his face starts to melt. And he inadvertently reaches out for his date, and he grabs her, and she dissolves. And then the fever goes away. So, being a scientist, he builds himself a super strong exoskeleton. But every once in a while, the fever comes over him. He's got to touch someone to pass it along, and it dissolves them. Now, he doesn't do this because he enjoys it. But his guilt is selective. When he kills like homeless people because of this, he doesn't care. But when he kills a night watchman, he feels terrible. But he's trying to build himself a machine to cure him. This is when Batman shows up and stops him. In fact, twice, Batman stops him from curing himself to arrest him and put him in jail. So, that's the third one. He also, obviously, he goes completely crazy because of this, and he falls in love with a mannequin and thinks the person that he loves, because when he touches the mannequin, it doesn't dissolve. Now, the fourth Clayface was Sandra Fuller, who was an agent of Cobra. No, not G.I. Joe Cobra, the cult Cobra with a K in the DC universe, whose head once beat Batman in single combat. Yeah, I'm not letting that go. Anyway, they turn her into Lady Clayface, and these are the four members of the Mud Pack for the most part. Now, remember what I said about Basil Carlo, his death not sticking. Post-crisis, he's back alive and well. But Matt Hagen, who is killed during crisis by one of the shadow demon things, he stays dead. Okay, and this is important because it comes into play in the Mud Pack. Now, I was worried about rereading the story, afraid it wouldn't stand up, but it still does. It's a story from another time in comics. This is also when Batman was still a superhero. I've spoken before how post the Dark Knight, they slowly made Batman kind of into that kind of crazed vigilante. But this hadn't happened yet. The story came out in 1989, and he was still a superhero, so he was still basically kind of normal. And like I said, a story from another time. It's very simple, at some point silly, but I'm glad it still stands up as an enjoyable Batman story for me. Now, the mud pack begins when Lady Clayface goes to Basil Carlo, who's still in an asylum, because she'd gone to see him once before after she became Clayface to see what he was about. And he said, we should team up and do something. She's like, I don't need you. Now she thinks she does. So she breaks him out. He goes and he collects the remains of Matt Hagen, who I remember died in Crisis, whereas Carlo got to come back because of Crisis, while she goes off to use the powers of Looker, because at one point she had fought Batman and the Outsiders, and whenever she imitates someone, she can gain their abilities and bring him back as well. So it's the four of them. And Carlo's plan is super villain simple: money, power, destroy Batman. But that's not his real plan, because after they get Batman, they could have actually Batman could have been killed at one point by the melty face Clayface, but Lady Clayface stops him because the plan is to bring him back, drive him crazy, then kill him. So while he's giving Batman a lot of drugs to drive him crazy, and they leave him, they have a toast to their success, and he has drugged her because he wants to be ultimate Clayface. So he takes her blood and the blood of melty face Clayface. See, because he wanted to bring back Matt Hagen, but he couldn't. But melty face Clayface, of course, did use his blood, so he gets some of that. And apparently, the whole melty skin thing is lost on him. So he uses it, and he does become the big super safety ultimate Clayface, and he can turn the melt powers, the burning melting powers, on and off. So Batman tries fighting him. He loses. He's about to die when Looker, uh, who Batman had contacted at one point, because Looker is on camera breaking uh, OG Clayface out of the asylum. So she comes and she saves Batman, and then they both fight him, and they both lose. And he's about to kill them both, but he starts to monologue. But this fits his character, because He is a hammy B movie actor, and he's like, and he stops to give himself stage directions for the big one where he kills the good guys, and then Batman says, amp up his power, and Looker does that, and then he the burning power he has overtakes him, and he melts his way into the earth nonstop. That's how it ends. Batman even makes a joke about him going to China. Like I said, he wasn't crazy then, so he could still make jokes. That's how that ends. That's the end of the Mud Pack. But after the other two wake up, she wakes up and her powers over Melty Face, K-Face have worn out, and he's angry. But they realize they don't have anyone but each other, and they fall in love. And apparently now they have a full-grown son who was like born a Clayface and is more like the one on the animated series that he can set off pieces of himself to do things. And there are lots of other Clayfaces, but this isn't about them. This is just about the Mud Pack. This simple four-part story that I really enjoyed when I was a kid. And if you keep your expectations simple, I think you'll enjoy it too. Oh, and just for shits and giggles, in a recent issue of all things Harley Quinn, they pay an homage to the Clayface stories when they have she crashes a party with every single Clayface ever in attendance. So if you want to see them all, you can read that one story. I forget what issues was. I'll put it up here somewhere. But yeah, the original story you can read on DC Universe. Um, is it DC Infinite? I think it's DC Infinite. Or you can get the trade, Dark Knight Detective. I think it's Volume 4, but it's out of print, of course, so you'd have to get it on eBay or something. But yeah, you should definitely reading that run by Alan Grant and Norm Brayfogle on Batman, because it was a lot of fun, very superhero kind of stuff, and of course Norm Brayfogle had a great artistic style that he was almost like a combination of Marshall Rogers and Neil Adams in the work that he did. And it was really lovely to see. And before anyone asks, I have no idea who the Clayface is currently in the DC universe. I think they've gone back to Basil Carlo as the main Clayface, but now he does change. Now he can change his appearance, and they use the elements of the animated series. But the thing is, you can't have the son of Melty Face Clayface and Lady Clayface without Matt Hagen being in there somewhere in the mix. And the son of them does exist running around. So Matt Hagen had to have shown up at some point.